Welcome, wrestling fans. We have a special guest tonight as we continue Hall of Fame month. We're, of course, leading up to the great Lou Thez George Tragus Hall of Fame weekend, July 20th, 21st, and 22nd, Waterloo, Iowa, something we look forward to every year. You can check out an earlier interview I did with the director of the museum, Kyle Klingman, and look at that. We ask him a lot of questions. He explains a lot of the basics of the weekend. So I thought now I'd catch up with my old friend, my longtime close personal friend, even though hasn't been that long. I think we've known each other about 2 years now, which still probably a long time when you're talking Troy. And he actually did a show with me earlier about 6 months ago, one of the first shows on the channel to help get it started, and that was a great show as we talked. Troy is the owner and promoter of Impact Pro Wrestling. They run shows in the Des Moines, Iowa area, but they also run shows Algona, Iowa, Marshalltown, Iowa, and they do the big Hall of Fame show every year in Waterloo, Iowa. And so we thought we would maybe share some Hall of Fame stories that from our past. We've both been going for many years now and been a part of it in different ways. And to give you guys an idea, maybe if you're thinking, hey, I really want to come to Waterloo, what's it like? Well, this would be the year to do so. But let's hear some stories from Troy. So, Troy, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, thank you for having me on, Jim. I didn't know where that was going. I don't know if I'm a longtime friend or I'm just a friend that's really old. I couldn't really get that. I didn't know what your intention was there. You just call me out for being old.
Yeah, well, it seems like I've known you forever, but I think I've only really known you for about 2 years. So I think that should be a compliment to you, because it feels like there'd be something missing in my life if I didn't know you. But I don't know if it's a good missing or a bad missing at this point, because sometimes I think I'd be a little less corrupt as well.
Well, we'll always have 100 pounds of ribs to share in Vegas. We'll always have that memory. So we have that. Nobody can take that away.
Yes, that was a couple years ago. They decided to order ribs from TGI Fridays when we were at the Cauliflower Alley Club convention, and that. I know this isn't quite the Hall of Fame story, but these kind of stories are a lot like what happens with the Hall of Fame. But then, so we're just sitting in your suite upstairs, enjoying ribs, talking wrestling, making friends. There was probably about 10 of us up there. I don't know. There's a lot of wrestling stories just being thrown around, memories and everything else like that. And all of a sudden, who knocks at the door but none other than Wes Briscoe, and it's just like, hey, guys. And so, I'm sorry, from a wrestling fan growing up, sitting in a room and a wrestler knocks on the door and just says, hey, guys, what's going on? That's kind of like crazy.
Yeah, that was fun. It was a fun night. CAC is fun. We talk. I know. All of our focus right now, or my focus, is going towards the July 20th, the 22nd in Waterloo for the Tragus Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame weekend. But CAC, that is, it's a sister organization, and they're great. B. Brian Blair, president, and Morgan Dollar, they do an excellent job out there. And we really enjoy going out there, bringing the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, bringing awareness to what we're doing in Waterloo, and so yeah, you're right. Those weekends are similar in a lot of ways. And I think if people really enjoy the CAC, I think they could take a lot of that same joy away from in Waterloo too, because it's a very intimate setting. I think one of the things at Las Vegas, the great part about CAC being in Las Vegas is it's in Las Vegas, but that also spreads people out a little bit because there's so much to see and do there. Where in Waterloo, you're in a hotel, and 2 blocks away is the museum, and in between that's the Five Sullivan Brothers, where Impact Wrestling show is going to take place, and the Hall of Fame inductions will take place Saturday night, and everybody, very few people leave that 2-block strip over the course of that 72-hour period from Thursday to Sunday. So it's just a real the experiences. I've been down eating breakfast, and Jim Ross is sitting there. He's, hey, you by yourself? Yep. You want to join me? Absolutely. Just those are. I'm a fan when I come to Waterloo for 100%. You talk about Wes Briscoe coming in the room, and that's really neat. I do too. none of that's lost on me when I can sit and have breakfast with Jim Ross and hear him, tell stories and just, get his views and perspective on things. It's incredible.
Yeah, well, that reminds me of one of my favorite stories of all time at Waterloo, and I guess this would be the time to bring it up. Then is I was sitting down there having breakfast in the Ramada Inn breakfast buffet. I'm sitting with a couple of my wrestling friends. They're like independent wrestlers, but I've gotten to know them over the years from the Hall of Fame show and stuff like that. And who sits down right to my left but Edge, Adam Copeland. And he's just,
oh, wow.
I hadn't met him before, like at a meet and greet or something, but I didn't know him personally. He sits there and shakes my hand and just says, "Hey, how's it going?" And he figured out right away that I was there with the wrestling crowd and sat there and talked to him for about 20 minutes with eating breakfast. And very, very nice guy, very cool guy. It was one of those situations that was like, I wanted to break out my camera so bad and say, look at, just for the memory of my dinner with Edge, kind of like my dinner with Blassie, for those of you really old-time fans, what was that? My breakfast with Blassie, that's what it was called. So no picture, no video, no anything of that moment except for my memories, but wow, what a memory. 20 minutes of breakfast with Edge and great wrestling stories and stuff like that, but those are just the kind of things that happen all weekend at Waterloo, and it's just amazing.
One of my big regrets, but it's a real, I feel like it really tells what Edge is as a person. Edge came to our show, and he's against the wall, and people are coming up, and they're saying, "Hey, can we get an autograph? Can we get this?" He's like, "Hey, I don't want to do anything while the wrestling's going on," which is a great thing to say, and it's a great way to be, and it was really noble of him to say that, but I'm so jaded at times. I'm just thinking, hey, this is Edge's way of kind of blowing people off and not wanting to sign stuff and not, and he's not charging, so he doesn't want to deal with it. He just wants to enjoy and not be bothered by fans. And so he, does that kind of the whole show and just stands out there, watches the whole show, and seems to enjoy it and be engaged. And afterwards, I'm in a hurry to kind of get to the after party, and we're rounding everybody up, and still everybody's kind of waiting around. And Edge is outside talking to Colt Cabana, and I think it was Colt that heard later on. It was kind of like, "Hey, I think all these people are waiting around for you." And so I grabbed, I was kind of in a hurry, and I wanted to get going. This is where the regret lies, is I should have been right there with him helping out. But we had, I think it was Tony Murray helped out, sat with Edge for, an hour and a half. Everybody else had left the building except for Edge. He sat there and signed for people, didn't charge anything, just gave of his time away from, hey, everybody else is enjoying a cold beverage and having food, and I'm sure he's hungry and thirsty too. But he sat there at the Five Sullivan Brothers till midnight signing autographs for free for everybody that waited around. And I thought, man, that's pretty great. And I did. It was kind of a shame on me moment too for thinking anything but. So that was a pretty neat day.
Yeah, Edge is just, I always was a fan of his wrestling. I actually liked it. I think maybe in the minority, I liked the old Edge and Christian days with the 5-second poses and stuff like that. And then he became the rated R superstar and a great singles wrestler on his own. And that he had a great run there. But I kind of missed the old Edge where he was goofy and funny. But he's one of those that transcends it, because he's a Hall of Fame face, he's a Hall of Fame heel. Not too many people can say that, but what a nice guy. And yeah, the little bit I've had it, actually probably more than most, had to talk to him. He's just so down to earth, so thankful for the fans, because he was a fan. Can't remember what, it's probably on one of his WWE DVDs where he talks about going to Skydome in Chicago, and stuff like that. Wasn't he in the 6th row and at Skydome? And he and Christian went to all the old WWE events when they were younger, and that was kind of their dream. So those wrestlers that were fans growing up understand what it's like for us fans today now to want to meet them and get an autograph, get a picture, and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And, James Jeffries, Impact Pro Wrestling wrestler, and Miss Frankie J, our current IPW Women's Champion, they gave Edge a ride to the airport, and I don't know if it was Miley Cyrus. I don't remember the artist, but they said they did some pretty good car karaoke with Edge. So, yeah, good times. But before we got in the air, you warned me about couldn't really talk bad about somebody unless I was willing to face them down the road. But I do. When we're talking about Hall of Fame stories, I do have to call out James Jeffries. This was probably 7 or 8 years ago. So James would have been just turned 21. We'll say he's just turned 21. He might have been 20, but we'll say he's 21.
21, okay.
For legal purposes. And he had a few beverages, and he's like, and we're hanging out the Ramada Bar in Waterloo during the weekend. If you've ever been there, pretty small bar, it's just packed, and everywhere you look, there's somebody you grew up watching on TV, and it's pretty great. It's a neat experience, and James is pretty intoxicated, and he goes up to T.S. Travis and myself, and he's like, "Oh my God, there's Nick Bockwinkel." He's like, "It's Nick Bockwinkel," and he's talking. Nick Bockwinkel's hanging out talking to Nikki Free, and just they were shooting the breeze. We were standing 20 feet away, and he goes, I'm gonna go over there and Travis. Hey, you better not. He was just go around him because he's kind of James was kind of hanging on us because he was a little inebriated, and so Travis like, don't touch him. Don't. He was just go around Nick Bockwinkel and just talk to Nick. He goes, don't touch him, and that was such a weird, funny thing to say. So James goes over there. We watch James, and he's hanging on Nick Bockwinkel like a feather boa. He's just and Nick was very gracious and thankful that James had sought him out, or maybe a little bit. He was maybe a little bit uncomfortable at one point when James was kind of hanging on him, and Travis yelling, "He's touching him, James! You're touching him!" And it was such a surreal moment. And there's a picture. I went over and took a picture later on or around that time, and I'll have to post that because about every year or two it comes up on a Facebook shared memory of James hanging on Nick Bockwinkel and Nikki Free, and I'm in that picture too, and we're enjoying Nick's company. And so, yeah, that was but again, very gracious of Nick Bockwinkel, and a kind of a sign of a little bit. It can get a little crazy sometimes. So.
Yeah, that would be something else. I believe was that 2009 maybe when Nick Bockwinkel was inducted, and was maybe even Warren. His father might have been inducted at some point too. I believe his father maybe inducted the next year, 2010. And so,
I think it was 2009. I think you're right.
2009, unless this is someone who is doing research on James Jeffries and his age, because we do not want. I want my YouTube channel to be used for many, many things and lots of happiness, but we do not want people trying to figure out how old James Jeffries really was. So, if that's the case, and you're looking, we think it might be maybe 1986, and who knows?
Yes, it was. Yeah, no.
Yeah, James, by the way, was one of those people up there with the 100 pounds of ribs, and yes, so.
Yes, James is at the epicenter of a lot of, that's something James is, and partly because people gravitate towards him, he's that people like to be. He's a great guy, and and he's very so respectful and just been genuine in that way, and so he really does. I mean, he's got such an affinity for the guys that I have a love and passion for, and he's 15 years younger than I am, so it's always neat to talk with James about wrestling, because he talks about, he likes the Kerry Von Erichs and the Freebirds and the Nick Bockwinkel's and the same type of guys, even though he was born, after their primes, and long after their, born a decade after their prime.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, well, the other thing that amazed me is how much the kids relate to him, and I think that's a lost art in this day and age. Is to the kids. I mean, they have. I mean, if you look on the big stage, you have kind of like John Cena, and that's who John Cena. The kids relate to him, but on the independent level, it's very rare to find someone who the kids relate to as well as they relate to James. And after an independent show, you just see every kid in the arena trying to go up and meet James, get his autograph, get a headband, and James is he's one of those that stays until the end, until every kid at least got to shake his hand or got a picture with him or whatever he needed.
Yeah, and I think part of that, now we might get a little off topic so you can reel me back in, but I think part of that is a lot of the younger guys now, they want to be edgy and they want to be, they want to be new and different, a little bit cooler. And James is like, hey, I love doing this, and I want to be. He loves the fans, and he wants to express that. And if it's not, you don't think it's cool, just like many people don't think John Cena is cool, then that's fine. But the people, the kids is why he does it. Everybody's doing it for a different reason, but he's doing it so that the kids can look up to him, and hopefully he sets a good example in and out of the ring. And I think that is. I mean, he really connects with those kids, and we love having him on. I mean, these fair shows. I mean, it's neat in all of our events, but when we go to these county fairs and these town festivals where it's highly populated by kids, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, we're going to do a show up in Plymouth County, up in Lamar's, Iowa, every year, and I mean, the dressing room's about maybe 75 to 100 yards away from the ring, and he'll have 75 kids, swarming around him as he leaves the ring, but they just don't stop swarming around him. He walks all the way back to the dressing room, and they're on him. It's incredible to watch. It's great. I mean, he deserves it all because he works his butt off in the ring.
Yes, of course. Well, I'll transition us back to the Hall of Fame without completely newly transitioning us. And was that last year? Was that the steel cage match that he was involved in with James J. Dillon as his manager? I mean, there's another for us fans who didn't get to go to an NWA show, Mid-Atlantic, Crockett, whatever you'd call it, in the 80s and see James J. Dillon in action. James J. Dillon managing a current star and being a part of the action. That was just so cool.
Yeah, I mean, he slammed the cage door on Justin Deason's head to aid James Jeffries, to win the IPW heavyweight title for a third time. So it was pretty neat. Again, all those guys in the past who've done the Legends Lumberjack match where we have, a lot of the guys in the Hall of Fame inductees and honorees come and get involved. And we've seen Danny Hodge punch a guy out. We've seen Baron with the claw on a couple guys. I mean, it's so fun. I mean, I love being in the role that I'm in, and as far as being able to help put this together. But maybe before I did that, I loved coming as a fan too, and I'd love to come as a fan again. Hopefully this far outdate, this event and this weekend grows, and long after I'm doing anything with wrestling, I can come and enjoy it as a fan, because to me, it's a once in a lifetime type event. I've never been to WrestleMania, and you've been to many of those. When you go to the CAC and you go to these conventions, I just feel like, especially for Iowa, where hey, it's in, maybe between Los Angeles and Waterloo, you can find a cooler event. But I think if you live in the Midwest, anywhere within 500 miles of Waterloo, it's pretty incredible that there's that type of talent that's come through. And just, Randy Couture, was there, and a couple years ago, just everybody, Roddy Piper and Bret Hart. You mentioned Edge, and this year you have Paul Orndorff, and you're gonna have some of the top guys in the world today. Pentagon Jr., and Lucha Libre, or Lucha Underground.
And
Shane Strickland, Skill Shot, Shelton Benjamin. Just
last year, Ricochet was there, and I mean, there's a name who, I mean, he's like, I think he was in the top 10 in the PWI 500. As I mean, he's maybe not as famous because he's not in the WWE, but I mean, this is one of the top wrestlers of the world, and he was there talking to people, signing autographs, doing everything else. Really nice guy. I mean, the first time I ever got to meet him, and that was at the Hall of Fame. So I disagree with you slightly, as to say. I mean, when they do put on a WrestleMania, you do get a few more fans. I mean, 100,000 fans. So then there are a few more options in places like ROH and WrestleCon and even those. I don't even know all this. I mean, there's just everyone is just grabbing space so that they can put on a show and try to get. I mean, if you have 100,000 people, there's going to be people to come to your show, but like we said, Waterloo, you're there for the weekend. You're having breakfast with the wrestlers. It's a little bit more of a quaint setting, but you get a chance to see them all. There might just not be the selection. I mean, you pretty much have you go to everything because everything's pretty much one after each other, and because to keep the things, but for those of us who go to everything, I mean, it's a full weekend, and you get to almost experience everything you would at one of these power weekends. And this is in the Midwest in Iowa, and sometimes even better because I think the wrestlers appreciate the fans there because it's a Hall of Fame weekend and not so much just of a convention.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, as far as it's not a convention in any money grabbing sort of way, and that's not to be, there's nothing wrong with being a convention and getting all the money you can get. That's great too, but that's just not how Kyle Klingman in the Dan Gable Museum and the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. It's not how they keep score. They're keeping score by, hey, how many people do we get to engage? How many people came from, Indiana to Waterloo for 3 days? That's how they're keeping score. So there's not this, rush to, hey, let's try to get $40, for an autograph. We were talking a little earlier. I think Big E last year was $10 for an 8x10, $10 for your picture taken with them. It's like, I mean, by Comic-Con type standards, that's that's a crazy low amount, and we're not. That's not what we're about. It's just something that makes it different. And I don't know if this is an exclusive because I know the press release is kind of coming out here today or tomorrow. But one of the neat things too is that Chad Gable and Jason Jordan, the American Alpha from the WWE, they're going to be doing Wade Keller's podcast on Friday at 3 p.m. So that's a relatively, and everybody's able to come live and watch it. That's a relatively rare occurrence for Wade to have current, WWE people on his podcast, and WWE was gracious enough to allow that to happen. So we're really thankful to them, and really excited to see how it turns out.
Oh yeah, that is really nice. And but that's kind of the thing, as you were saying, that what you see a lot is like these people come and then they come the next year. I mean, the talent even, they start to become a part of, like, I know Wade Keller, will this be his third year now in a row that he's a part of it? And I don't think he was ever really a part of it before then. And then he came, and now he's coming back every year because, I mean, my guess is he would think it's he must have fun, and he thinks it's a very worthwhile thing to come to as a wrestling historian. And you start to see, and I know like Gerald Briscoe now comes, he's a huge part of the whole weekend and comes every year and is a part of it. And every year now he's going to come because he has that much fun and he realizes how important it is.
Yeah, well, J.J. Dillon, JR, Jerry Briscoe. I mean, JR, if he hears this, he'll probably give me grief about it. But the first year he came, I mean, he is kind of a gruff individual, and he jokes about that. And, but he came, and it just seemed like we missed on some levels. His room was kind of cruddy, and the service at the restaurant. I mean, I was with him at a table. My wife and I were with him when, I mean, it was pretty brutal service, and you just kind of, and he handled that excellently, but it was still, you just kind of felt like, oh man, you know, we're just not doing well here. And when he left, I mean, I thought, well, hey, we had him here 1 year, and that was great. And so each year, I talked to Jerry Briscoe after the evaluation, and you know, we just talk over guys you liked and whatnot. And I said, man, I just felt like Jim had a terrible time. He goes, oh my God, he goes, I just left him at the airport. He said, it was incredible. He said he had such a great weekend. He's coming back every year. And I'm like, all right, and then as someone who expresses their emotions pretty, on my sleeve a little bit more as far as being excited about stuff, I was pleasantly surprised. So now, I mean, he's been a great asset, to the weekend, to the museum, on a lot of levels. So.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I understand completely what you mean. The very first time I met him, it was like, he seemed nice, but it was like, I hope he enjoyed meeting me. I mean, I wasn't quite sure, but then once you get the chance to talk to him a little bit, I mean, he loves the business, and he realized the importance of fans. I like the true fans, the fans that want to see the business grow, that want to be a part of it. And kind of reminds my Jim Ross story is we were headed, I think we were just headed, and I found him in the lobby, and we were both headed into the same elevator. And I'm like, oh man, I'm getting on an elevator with Jim Ross. This is so cool. I was marking out like I probably shouldn't have been. And I was actually just one floor up, so I probably actually should have even been taking the stairs, but hey, then I would have missed the elevator with Jim Ross. And Jim Ross presses like 9 on the elevator, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to go to floor 10 then, so I can ride the elevator up with Jim Ross. And so he gets off at floor 9, so we had about, no one else got on the elevator. We had about 7 floors to talk. It wasn't the fastest elevator in the world. I remember I talked to him for about a minute, and it was so cool, and I just said, thank you, have a good night, and it's nice meeting you. And then he was very gracious back, and I said, thank you, it was nice talking to you too, sir, or whatever, and it was really cool. So got off on floor 10, and then all the way back down. So yeah, that was kind of not my proudest moment, but it was worth it. I mean, I would do it again if I had to.
So were you at his seminar this year at the CAC?
No, unfortunately, I missed the seminars because I was winning the cribbage championship. As much fun as it is, and I'll get that little plug in for myself, and someday when I do a CAC story, my listeners will understand, but one of the negatives of winning the cribbage tournament is you miss a lot of stuff because you're playing cribbage the whole time. But actually, you were there for my final, and someday they're going to get to see the picture of beating Cowboy Bob Orton in cribbage, and I have pictures of that thanks to you and the wonderful Hall of Fame crew.
Did you see my other pictures I took, like of myself and of my thumb and of your ear?
Yeah, actually, it was going to be a surprise, but don't be surprised if one of those makes the background for this video, because I don't have any other background to use for the video. So people, we're already at the 28-minute mark, and people might just get to stare at your face for 28 minutes. So hopefully, they'll encourage them to listen more.
Oh man, well, I'll let you. I'll let you go. My Jim Ross, Beth Phoenix, the year they came late on Friday. That's actually the year I think I turned 40, and I had been I had my fill, and I went upstairs, and I was wearing athletic shorts and a white T-shirt, and I was in the room by myself, and I was waiting for my wife to come back, and I went downstairs. I was just going to grab some candy bars and a water, and so I'm wearing exactly 2 articles of clothing, and I go to the front desk, and I'm like, hey, can I get Reese's and a bottle of water? And I've had my fill of adult beverages. I get ready to walk out, and there's JR and Beth Phoenix come walking in the door. I'm like, I never met Beth before, so I'm like, what a terrible first impression. But so I kind of was as short as I could and got
Beth Phoenix, another amazing woman, amazing wrestler, but an amazing person too. If talking to her is just unexpected. I mean, it probably shouldn't have been unexpected, but it's just she's nicer than you could even imagine someone being nice, and so soft spoken, and not like a heel at all, which is really cool.
Right, absolutely. So.
Well, yeah. This is what the Hall of Fame is all about. I mean, look at just all these stories that can happen, and you can be a part of it if you come to Waterloo. There's still time this year. Waterloo, Iowa, the 20th, 21st, 22nd. Go to their website and Facebook page of the Luthez George Tragos Hall of Fame. Google that, and you'll find lots of information on it. Also, a part of Impact Pro Wrestling. What is your guys' website exactly?
That's ImpactProWrestling.com, or you can look us up on Facebook. There's two Impact Pro Wrestling. There's one in New Zealand and there's one in Iowa. So we're the one that's not in New Zealand.
They're not.
You can look us up, and if you're July 20th, it's a weekend. It's $130 now for an all access pass, but that includes. That includes, a meal on Thursday night. We have free beer, free pizza, free food. We're doing the Jason Sanderson. He's helping out with a little kind of kick off the weekend there at the museum. You get a meal on Saturday, an excellent meal put together by Chad Olson and my wife and Mel Wilkins. And they're not preparing it. They just pick out the items that they think people will enjoy. But, it's a great value. You get 2 wrestling shows in that. And all the stuff on Saturday with the museum, the autograph signing. And I'm a terrible pitch man, but I feel like this. I feel like if you come once, we have a pretty good shot at you coming twice. Because I think it's, or in the case of him, was it 18 times? Or
this will be 16, I believe, for me. It's every year but one since 2002, and I just had too many family obligations. Trust me, the summer I missed was horrible, but I just had too many family obligations, and my listeners know that I am a family man, and so sometimes that has to come first. So I think missing once out of 16 years is not. I'm not too disappointed about that, even though I am disappointed about the one I missed, because every year it's just something amazing happens. And actually, before we go, can you just, this year, the one thing that we haven't talked about in other episodes, and I don't know how much I'll talk about a little bit more on maybe thing, but we have 2 shows this year. Can you talk just quickly about the early show that might be a little different and new for this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're doing 2 shows. I mean, pricing-wise, it's $35 for ringside for both shows and $25 for both shows for general admission. So, again, try to be very affordable. But there's a show at 11:30 a.m., and that's the evaluation show. Now, this year we have guys from Texas, we have a guy from Seattle, Washington, we have people from the East Coast, we have people from Indiana, Ohio, and, of course, Iowa, Minnesota. Come down and be evaluated by Jerry Briscoe, current WWE scout, Jim Ross, J.J. Dillon, and they basically wrestle a match in front of a live audience, and it's, we're going to do it a little higher production this year, and it'll be an actual show, and that's going to last about an hour and a half. And those are pretty rapid fire, but the quality of wrestling is going to be pretty great, but it's going to be one match after another. There's not going to be a lot of show to it. Then at 1 o'clock, it's going to go right into, there's no break. It's going to go right from those hour and a half of matches to 1 o'clock will be the Hall of Fame Classic, which the first round will be Shelton Benjamin versus Shane Strickland, who wrestles as Killshot and Lucha Underground. Kurt Stallion versus Myron Reed, which recently had a match for Ring of Honor that was, by all accounts, kind of incredible and stole the show. They're going to be a first-round match. AJ Smooth, he's no stranger to the fans of Minnesota up there at Steel Domain, and he's our longest reigning champion at Impact Pro Wrestling. He's going to be taking on Chuck Taylor. A lot of people know him from Chikara and all sorts of other endeavors that he's been a part of. And then Penta El Zero M, who wrestles as Pentagon Jr. for Lucha Underground, and he will be taking on ACH. former Ring of Honor Tag Team Champion, and there's some pretty heavy hitters in that first round. So that's going to be that first show. So there'll be about 9 to 12 matches in the evaluation portion, and there's going to be 4 matches of pretty, high caliber, obviously, in the Hall of Fame Classic. And then at night, we do our traditional it's going to be a 6:30 bell time, our traditional night show. One of the aspects of that is, this year, Chad Gable will be there, Jason Jordan, Sabu, Dan Gable, the 1972 gold medalist and namesake for the museum, is going to be in attendance for the show. And so, and not to mention, just everybody else. If you go to see any poster, basically everybody's going to be there on Friday night. And then our show will, has a lot of big matches for people in Iowa. We have Nikki Free returning to take on Ryan Slade. The Fight Flight Connection, a young tag team that's really taking the Midwest by storm. They're going to be taking on Live Legend Killers, the current IPW Tag Team Champions. We're going to add 2 more teams to that'll be announced the day of. So, Miss Frankie J is going to defend her IPW Women's title in a 4-way match. So that'll be pretty awesome with Brooke Valentine, Sierra Avery, and Garcia. I can't think of her first name.
Nikki?
Selena Garcia.
Selena, okay.
Sorry. But, it'll be, Malice, 400-pound beast, taking on 300-pound Ray Fearing. There's a lot of great matches. And to top it off, we have Aaron Von Baron and Justin Deason. The Cowboys from Hell is kind of their going by now. They're going to be taking on Wes Briscoe, of course, son of Jerry Briscoe and nephew of the great Jack Briscoe. And his partner will be B. Brian Blair, one half of the Killer Bees and president of the CAC. So that'll be a lot of fun, and I'm excited about it. So,
wow, yeah, as you just went through, that is Friday right there, and as you were just going through that, I was just thinking, if we were at WrestleMania weekend, and that was a Friday that they had scheduled for WrestleMania weekend, there would be so many people that would that's how they would spend their Friday, because that would be the best wrestling available in the whole area for a WrestleMania weekend with all those names that you mentioned. So if you're a fan of just wrestling and want to be a part of this is, maybe this is a little closer for you than WrestleMania would be if you live in Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Nebraska, South Dakota, or any other state. I love you all. You'll get your WrestleMania experience here in a much quainter setting, and probably it won't cost you as much either. So this would be a great way to try. And if you're one of those people who go to WrestleMania every year, then why not add another thing to your schedule? It's still another 9 months until WrestleMania, and then so if you like it that much, then this is another one they're offering you. You don't have to wait until next April. This would be the one to come to. That's just that sounds like exactly what we do on WrestleMania Friday or WrestleMania Saturday, especially those of us who are really into the wrestling and not so much maybe a couple of the other things at WrestleMania weekend. But there is no better wrestling show WrestleMania weekend than that.
Well, I appreciate that. That's awesome that you say that. And sandwiched between those shows, we talked about the Wade Keller podcast, and then after the shows are all over, we're all going to go to kind of a private, for all access pass holders only. We're going to go to a party, and all the honorees will be there and hang out. And that ends up being 160 people or something, and 30 of them have been wrestling on TV for a living at some point in their life. So that's a pretty great experience. Friday is a full day. It starts at 11:30 and it ends about 12:30, 13 hours later, and then get up and be ready for Saturday.
Then Saturday, then you do get your meet and greets type things on Saturday, and maybe your more formal Hall of Fame presentation and stuff Saturday night, and it's just Yeah, I mean, there's just something for everybody. I mean, be a part of the whole weekend if you're one of these diehard wrestling fans. But if you just want to watch the matches, I mean, all day Friday, you have that opportunity. And then the museum, too. We should mention that quickly. The museum, every year they change it, put up new exhibits. It's just an amazing thing to walk through. There's nothing like that at WrestleMania weekend where you can just walk through, see. You can see the history. There's an amateur section and a professional section. It's just they have amazing exhibits. You have I don't even know how to explain it. Like, I mean, you could Harley Race's boots. You have old stuff from Lou Thez. Even information like on people like Frank Gotch. They go all the way back to Frank Gotch and stuff like that. It's just an amazing. They have a library there that's just a lot of times I spend a couple hours in the library there every weekend, and it's just amazing as well. So yeah, something for everybody. Well, we're gonna be there this weekend, and we'll actually be at the shows. So if you see the Wrestling Unabridged table, come over and say hi. And I'd like to meet you as well, as this will be my first year at the actual shows in that capacity. And you could probably possibly say hi to Troy. We're actually posting. I told Troy this earlier. We're posting tonight a match from 3 years ago between Wes Briscoe and the Big Picture. It was a lumberjack match, as you were talking about. And this is where Danny Hodge even gets involved as one of the lumberjacks, and you can see Troy gets to make his cameo in that video with Wes Briscoe. So I know he's excited about that, and we'll be posting that. So check out that video tonight. Just as you can tell, this is just an exciting from two different people here, from someone who promotes the shows and is part of the actual promotion of the wrestling. You can see how much effort and work Troy puts into it, but at the same time how much fun Troy has at it. As someone who's more of a fan trying to become a historian now, how much fun it is for me. And if you're just an average fan, you have no desire to do anything but be a wrestling fan, this is how it started for both of us so many years ago. For me, 2002, and I have been coming back every year because it was so awesome. So we hope to see everybody there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for all the kind words and I do. I feel when you're hyping it up, and but you're also very genuine. I know you well enough. When you see there, I mean, you do. You have it. You take so much. You get so much out of the weekend just by always moving. I see you in CAC and in Waterloo, and you're always soaking up as much as you possibly can. I mean, there's probably nobody there. I see Jeff Sharkey as another person that really takes advantage of these. Doesn't let a lot of time slip through their hands. So it's great to see.
Yeah, and there's. I mean, I love that you mentioned Jeff's become a great friend because of things like this and getting to know. And you get to meet other wrestling fans who have the same passion as you do. And I've gotten to know. Yeah, Jeff is one of those. We spend a couple hours in the library together. It's just because there's so much information in there, and he's one of those who loves all the history and stuff too. And yeah, it's just an amazing weekend, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And yeah, I mean, I just want other people to have that same opportunity as I've had now for 15, 16 years. And I know some people, maybe it's been a few years since they've come, but this would be a great year to come back. The wrestling it just amazes me how every year there's just more and more, and I'm just so excited to be there. And you guys keep adding stuff, and hopefully we didn't get James in too much trouble this video either. And but there's always going to be a story. And I think back, one last quick story. I came with my wife, who's been to she says 3 of them now, and I think she would know because and my listeners know she's not really a wrestling fan, but she's very supportive in a lot of ways. And so when I first got to meet Roddy Piper, I believe that was about 2008 maybe, I believe it was him and Bret Hart was inducting his dad. And Roddy Piper came out at the wrestling matches, and my wife snapped a picture of me shaking Roddy Piper's hand for the first time, and my facial expression is just... It's not even a very good picture because my facial expression is under so much shock that I'm shaking Roddy Piper's hand that I look horrible in the picture. And that part of me hates the picture, but that part of me loves the picture too because it was the true emotion of getting to meet Roddy Piper for the first time. And back then I wasn't really a historian or anything at the time. I was just a fan coming to the thing. But that year I met Roddy Piper, Bret Hart, Nick Bockwinkel the next year, Ivan Koloff, I think Ricky Steamboat. There's been all these great people there, and like you said, now Gerald Briscoe knows who I am, and Jim Ross knows who I am, and it's just, if you're a true fan, Waterloo in July. I mean, it's what I start thinking of as soon as WrestleMania season's over. Waterloo in July, it's the big event of the summer, and you guys should all come.
Wow. There you go. Now, I agree. It's awesome.
Yeah, well, hopefully, yeah, and you're busy enough for the Waterloo weekend that you can't get me in too much trouble, so that's always good for me too, that as it sounds like you've tried to get a few other people in trouble too, but maybe we should all stop hanging out with you, but it's too much fun.
You know.
But yeah, and so James Jeffries, if we're listening, you were 21, but congratulations on your awesome win last year at the Hall of Fame thing with J.J. Dillon in the steel cage. That was awesome. I just look forward to what's going to happen this year. You never know. So, Troy, thanks for joining our channel. We will actually be making a follow-up video from the Hall of Fame too. For those of you who don't make it this year, then you want to put Hall of Fame 2018 on your schedule, so be sure to watch for that, and hopefully we'll be talking to Troy more in the future too.
Hey, thanks a lot, Tim, for everything, for bringing awareness to the world of wrestling outside of just the national scene, and making people aware that we're here, and I think it's great. I appreciate your support for not only the National Wrestling Hall of Fame and the George Tragos weekend, but just wrestling in general. It's great. I go to Steel Domain. I hadn't been to a show in a couple of years up there. I come up there, and you're the first person I saw sit in the front row center. So it's just great to have people like you involved in what we're doing.
Well, I love it, and this is like my dream come true to be a part of all this. Also, just a quick note on the page, if you wanna, I actually interviewed Kyle Klingman, the director of the museum, about actually I think it's been about, it was at Cauliflower Alley Club, so I don't know how long ago that, I think that was about 2 months ago now, and it's maybe a little bit more concise. If you want to watch that video, you can I think he does a good job of just laying out the entire weekend, and maybe you can get some of your questions answered that way. So be sure to check out my Kyle Klingman Hall of Fame video from the Cauliflower Alley Club. Otherwise, listen to this one again and get what you missed, and follow and watch for those videos that will follow up and show you what a weekend it is. Thanks for joining us, Troy. We'll be in touch.
Hey, thank you.